What was your approach to this particular adaptation?
As fans, what do we need? What would kill us if it weren't there? Where are the opportunities to expand and change, and how do we make sure that the soul of The Last of Us is intact in this new form?
Adapting video games to movies or TV shows takes a lot of work, and a lot of the time Hollywood just doesn't get it. The essential elements that video games are composed of don't just include the story it tells or the environment it's in, but also how the player interacts with the story and the environment. It hands over the controls and decision-making to the player, making us an active participant in the world. Which weapons to use against this boss, how to approach this puzzle, which dialogue option will de-escalate this conflict, how can I get the timing right on this platforming section so I don't mess it up for the 47th time? All video game adaptations are missing this element of player input and interaction. The movie theater doesn't ask you which path you want the characters to take, Netflix doesn't give you an inventory, and your remote doesn't decide what the characters say. And that's because film is a visual medium. You are a silent observer, not a participant. However, there are games that hold your hand more often than they give you control. Games such as Spider-Man, God of War, The Last of Us. Sure, these games give you freedom in how to approach a combat sequence and freedom to explore the world and find side quests, but ultimately these games are on rails. They are riddled with linear storytelling experiences, sections of the game designed by the developers for you to take part in, but every player experiences it all the same. Let's take the beginning of God of War, where Kratos fights a stranger in a superhero-esque battle. It's an amazing experience for someone playing the game, but not unique to one's experience at all, because ultimately it's on rails. It can be replicated in an adaptation because we, the players, don't influence the sequence at all. These type of games can typically translate well into adaptations such as the Uncharted movie, which was great for newcomers to the franchise, but when it came to staying true to its original source, it didn't quite hit the mark for fans of the franchise. Then there's HBO's The Last of Us, which was a rare and beautiful adaptation of its source, and I'd even argue that the adaptation enhanced the original story by adding a lot more depth to its world. For instance, in the episode Long Long Time, we get to spend a lot more time with Bill and Frank's story than in the game, as it was barely touched on there. The show can sacrifice time from Joel and Ellie and sink it into a unique story suited for a television runtime, while maintaining the integrity of the show's themes and moving the plot forward.
So I'm gonna tell you something because you're probably the only person who will understand.
I used to hate the world, and I was happy when everyone died. But I was wrong, because there was one person worth saving.
And this method of enhancing the material goes for many of the episodes. In Endure and Survive, Sam tells Ellie that he got bitten, something which didn't happen in the game, so Ellie can try to save him by giving him some of her blood. And that doesn't work, which only fuels and furthers Ellie's despair and depression surrounding her condition.
Let's go.
And when we are in need, the show can spend some of its runtime exploring David and his community, cluing us into his manipulative and pedophilic nature so we reach a conclusion about his character at the same time Ellie does. And again, these don't happen in the game. They're television exclusive experiences where, despite the changes, the story and themes remain not only consistent, but expanded on. This is the liberty that the show is able to take by adapting the original video game. But when Season 2 was announced, I started getting a little worried. Let me preface that The Last of Us Part 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. I know it has its flaws, but I still cherish it and the experience it put me through. That's right, not the story, but the experience. Because this isn't a story ripe for a television adaptation, it cannot be replicated so easily. Unlike its predecessor, The Last of Us Part 2 tests and challenges the player with its gameplay. And to help get my point across, I'm going to walk you through my experience with the game, which obviously includes some spoilers, so if you're trying to avoid that for Season 2 or you haven't played the game yet, I highly recommend just skipping to this timestamp to avoid any spoilers. Cool? Obviously, just like everyone else, when I bought the game, I was so excited. I finally get to return to this world and play as some of my favorite video game characters of all time, Joel and Ellie.
Do you remember the joke? What is the downside to eating a clock? It's time consuming.
That's so dumb.
And within the first 2 hours, Joel is killed.
Please get up!
And just like Ellie, I am hateful. I am angry, and I want revenge as badly as she does.
What's the WLF move?
What are you doing? You know what? I'm leaving tomorrow. And if you want to come with me, great.
So when she starts heading to Seattle to find the people who killed him, I'm right there with her, using my hate and rage to push forward, survive, and get revenge. And for all 3 days in Seattle, I'm put to quite the test. Because the enemy AI is insanely complex, and it is designed so that each enemy has their own unique name. I kill an enemy and another one weeps their name in despair as their friend is shot. I shoot a dog and its owner screams its name.
Tired.
Jesus!
I kill the dog's owner and the dog cries and whimpers around its body. The enemy AI is terrifyingly realistic, and it also doesn't help that the killing animations can be so brutal and bloody. And pair these with the haunting sounds you hear when you kill someone, because they don't just flop and go quiet. Some of them go out with this long, despairing scream or a harrowing croak. It makes it all feel so real. And there are even times when I am judged by my companions for what I do.
If you're gonna kill me, get it over with. If you've got the nerve. Asshole!
Damn, Ellie.
So this isn't like other games where I'm killing nameless, faceless bots. I feel like I'm killing people. And that's the thing, it's not just Ellie who is killing all these people, but me too. While it's true that the game is forcing me to play the story out, I'm also deciding to play into it. The same materials that make up a Molotov cocktail also make a health kit, but when I'm low on ammo and surrounded by enemies, a cocktail will help me a lot more. You can stealthily skip most combat encounters if you're patient enough, but if you want more bullets, you have to pick them up from bodies you killed, further incentivizing the violent playstyle. Yet, I am a sweaty gamer and I still have a lot of hate and rage in me, so I go through with all this violence. And by the end of day 3, I'm ready to go back to Jackson. The mass murder had caught up to me, the time since Joel's death felt distant, and I cared more about Dina's health than getting my revenge at this point. Then we get to play as Abby, and just like everyone else, I wasn't too happy about it, but it was necessary. Because to me, Abby was no longer just a character I'm striving to kill, she was a character I had to keep alive. And that meant seeing why she killed Joel, that meant getting to know and like some of her friends, the ones I've already killed. That meant getting to connect to a lot of her community, again, the people and dogs I've been murdering for the past 10 hours. But what was really interesting about Abby is that she followed the revenge path just like Ellie. She killed Joel, and after it all, she still gets nightmares. Not only that, but she lacks so much purpose and direction before she finds Lev and Yara. And so I get it now, I see what will happen to Ellie if she gets her revenge. And what's funny is I actually see a lot of Ellie and Abby anyways. They are two characters so brazen, so single-minded, so passionate, and both full of their own quirks and flaws that there was really no reason to hate Abby anymore. Especially after she started settling into the same role Joel took in the first game as she mentors Lev. So when we're at the farmhouse with Dina, I don't want Ellie to leave. I already know the outcome waiting for her when she gets her revenge, because I just played it out. It wasn't pretty. Nevertheless, the game forces us to play on and go to California, and at this point, I just wanted to put the controller down. Which feels so rare for a video game to make me feel like I kind of want to stop playing this. I want to stop killing people, stop pursuing revenge and hate, and go back to my peaceful life with Dina and JJ. But of course, that doesn't happen, and that's the whole point. That revenge and hate is tiring, and it can lose you a whole lot more than you lost in the first place. So The Last of Us Part 2 isn't exactly like those other narrative-driven games. Yes, it has the linear storytelling experiences, and it is on rails, but it also requires the player interaction, so that the player can not only understand the themes of the game, but feel them too. It needs the player to go on this journey of revenge, to feel the rage and hate and use that in the gameplay. It wants the player to become complicit in this world, falling into that kill or be killed mindset and doing whatever it takes to
Kill every last one of them.
It's the experience it requires. Because whenever Ellie kills a person or a dog, we will be sitting as an observer of her actions, not the enactor of them. We watch John Wick kill hundreds of people in his movies without batting an eye, so what will make us feel the dread of the mass murder Ellie commits if we're not committing it with her? When I press down on the controller trigger, Ellie squeezes the trigger of her gun. Put a controller in my hand, give me control of the situation, and I really have no one but myself to blame for killing another person. And bearing the brutal murder animations and hearing the long croaks of death are just some of the ways the game punishes me for taking this path. But take the controller away and I'll just watch Bella Ramsey do it. It won't be the same. Absolving the consumer from this experience detracts from the sentiment that the game is trying to communicate. A piece of the puzzle may be lost from us because it'll be an elementary translation from a video game to a TV show. Kind of similar to how subtitles for a foreign film won't translate directly to the exact phrase being said. And this doesn't just go for the violence, half the story is trying to empathize with Abby. And what better way to empathize with someone you hate than literally being in their shoes and having to keep them alive? Playing as her meant embodying her and her flaws, like how her fear of heights is exemplified by the way my controls get stickier and slower when I'm on a tall structure. For both Ellie and Abby, there's a big difference between watching a character and playing as them, and I think that's going to be really tricky to navigate with this upcoming season of The Last of Us. However, I will give the benefit of the doubt to Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin. They took a story where everyone felt they didn't need to adapt, and they still were able to make some gold with it. And they were even able to humanize some of those nameless enemies from the first game.
We can trade with you guys. We can be friends. I didn't know. I'm Brian. What's your name?
So I'm interested in seeing what they're going to do with this next season and how they'll get around such a large translation gap in the mediums. Because replicating a story is a whole lot easier than replicating an experience. Thanks.